Hey YouTube, so we are at Famous Reading Outdoors, and we are on the Locust Gap track. So on the map, there's a little yellow line in the upper right-hand corner, and we are below the lower line, kind of in the area where it says no trespassing. And we might actually be in that area, I'm not 100% sure. And the no trespassing area, that is actually AOAA owned land, I found out. And one of these videos, we are actually going through that area, but it's totally cool and legit. We have permission to be there. We have permission to be at Famous Reading. And the other thing that people might be asking about, since Famous Reading and AOA are both shut down, this was filmed before those were shut down. So like don't panic or whatever. Like, it's totally legit and cool that we're here. So anyway, so this is Famous Reading Outdoors, and like I had explained before, it is about 20,000 acres of land, 600 plus miles of trail. It's broken into these little tracts, which are sections of land. My guess is maybe they have like 50 tracts that are spread across 3 or 4 different counties. Like, it is absolutely huge, but with that said, most of it is green, and it is kind of like the old school off-roading. It's not necessarily what you would consider like a Roush Creek or a AOA or a Gore like off-road park. This is, or a Windrock Park or URI or whatever park they're used to going to. This is just basically a permit that allows you to go over the land that the coal company owns. And some of it has been cut up into trails. Obviously it's trails, but some of them it has been graded, so to speak, where they found some rocks and stuff that were cool, and they cut it up. And yeah, there's a red glare in the center of the screen. I kind of explained that in an earlier video, that we have a brand new Jeep. Super exciting that we're out in it with a brand new camera mount, and the camera mount's red, so there's a little bit of a glare because of lighting. And I did remediate that. You're not going to see that in the future videos, just by painting it black. So anyway, this is Famous Reading, and I think at one point it was called Famous Reading Anthracite, or maybe Reading Anthracite, or maybe I thought it was. I don't know. But I know that now it's called Famous Reading Outdoors, and they totally allow Jeeps, they totally allow ATVs, UTVs, side by sides, and it is massive. And it is one of the local places that a lot of the locals go to because it's so big. I mean, like literally, this could be land that's behind somebody's house. So I mean, just having access to property like this that is close to your house is pretty awesome. Unfortunately, we don't live up in Pennsylvania, so for us, this isn't close to us. We still have to travel up here, but it is a good kind of different feel than the traditional just going to AOA doing the same trails over and over again, or going to Roush Creek and doing the same trails over and over again. And this place is so big. I mean, we could literally come up here and go to a different track every time we came up and see completely different trails that we'd never seen before. Hey, so I want to do a little segment on radios. So this is a Cobra 75. This is by far the most common radio that I see in Jeeps out on the trails on the East Coast. And this is a CB radio, just like Smoking the Bandit. It's all in one on a little handheld thing, and it has a cord that goes to a little tiny itty bitty box. I have a video showing how to install it in a Gladiator if you want to actually see like the full install of it. But needless to say, so this exact radio is nice because it's compact and small. The problem with CB though is it's very old technology. It's like AM radio basically. It's hard to hear people. It's 10 meter. It should have some pretty good distance, but it doesn't, mainly because there's like mountains. People don't have properly tuned antennas. And then the other thing is because this is CB and anybody can use it, it's not licensed. The FCC has a power constraints on how powerful these radios can really be, which is a huge limiting factor. So, you know, between like kind of older technology, mountains, lower power, like all these different things. For the most part, you use this to just talk to the Jeep in front of you, talk to the Jeep behind you, and talk to your buddies. And like this right here might be like, say, $200 ish if you want like the antenna and the cable and like the CB and everything. And like I said, this is the most common way. I would not ever think of this as a recovery device. It does have channel 9 on there, which means that like it has like what is supposed to be the emergency frequency. I don't actually know if anybody ever is actually listening to the emergency frequency. I've never heard anybody even talk on that frequency, so I don't know if, you know, forest rangers like legitimately actually listen to that, or if like EMS listens to that, but I would not consider like the CB radio a emergency device where you could for sure 100% get a hold of somebody if you had a problem out here. Maybe you could find somebody that will talk back to you, and maybe you could kind of describe to them your problem, and maybe they'll relay the message for you. But the CB is mostly like a device for trying to talk to the people that are in front of you or behind you. So like I was saying, we have the CB, so when we're on rides with people that have CBs, and not all of them use CBs, we can hear what they're saying, we can talk back to them, and this just happens to be the exact one that we have. And like I said, it's very convenient because you could just stuff it under the seat, you can stuff it in the center console, you can put it in the glove box, nobody can see it, and just kind of put away, and the only hassle that you really have is this antenna that is bouncing around that is there. If you do get a CB, make sure you tune it properly, and there's a little box you hook it up into. I'm not going to really go into too much detail, but you want to make sure that you get a good number, or the radio is not going to work very good at all. And 99% of the time, it's a poor ground. That's like usually the trick. So make sure that the antenna is properly grounded, which means that like the bolt that's holding the antenna in, like make sure that that's ground down, and it's like metal on metal, like not metal on paint. And I don't mean like you have to scratch out like an entire section of your Jeep. It's just where the bolt goes in, like it needs to like touch something that's metal. Okay, so this is the next set of radios that I'm going to show off. These are GMRS, or General Mobile Radio Service radios, also Family Radio Service, FRS, and these are different specifications. So technically you're supposed to get a license with the FCC to use these, but it's like $100 or something like that, and the license is for 10 years, and it applies to you and everybody in your family. So it just kind of like a basic license. There's no test or anything. This isn't like ham radio. These are very crystal clear. They make the CBs look like junk. They're modern. They have a privacy code at the bottom of them. So like right now, the one that you're looking at is on channel 22, which is a certain specific frequency, but it has like code 121 put into it, which means that every time you push a button, it puts a noise that like only dogs can hear, like across the radio. So then the other one knows that you're transmitting. So now you don't have all that squelch and all that noise that you get like on CBs. And they're much clearer. They seem like they work a lot better. They're much more dependable than CBs, and you don't have to worry about like the antenna on your vehicle. And honestly, to me, it's like everything is better with these than the other ones. But the main thing that like isn't as good as there's only a handful of people that have these. Certain Jeep clubs, like going coastal, for instance, like this is what they use. They have a whole batch of them for their club. So if anybody shows up to one of their club events that doesn't have a radio, like they just hand them one and say, hey, you're going to be using this like today. But when I see people like at AOA and Roush, like 99% of the time they're using CBs. These are better. These are cheap too. You can get like a batch of these for like, I don't know, like $100, $200, and you can buy them at probably like Best Buy. Like they have them everywhere. Now there are two buttons on the side of them. The bottom button is like the low power transmit button, and technically you can use that little button. The upper button is the high power mode that you can use, but technically you're supposed to have the license in order to use it. And to me, if I had the choice, like I would use these all the time, and I wouldn't even use a CB, but like I said, everybody has CBs. This is the last radio I want to share with you. So this is a ham radio. This specific radio is a rugged radio, and I think I've encountered maybe 2 people, 3 people out of like the hundreds of people that I've gone out with that had a ham radio license. It's very, very rare for run across somebody that has a ham radio license. So effectively, this probably is like the best, like one of the 3 radios for quality and like what you can do with it and stuff. They have repeaters and stuff where you can actually like dial into the repeater and make phone calls. I know that like in Southern California when I lived out there and I had a ham radio license, I could do that stuff. So very, very dependable. But the problem is nobody has a damn thing on the East Coast. Like of all the Jeeps that are with you, maybe you could talk to like one person if you're lucky. My understanding is it's opposite on the West Coast. There's like a lot of ham radio, and maybe this is like super popular on the West Coast, but this is what a ham radio looks like. And they make handheld units also, but typically when people do ham radios in vehicles, more often than not, they want this like kind of base station. So with a ham radio, because you have a license and you have to go and take a test to actually show the FCC that you know what you're doing. When you broadcast, you have to actually say that you're assigned like call sign and everything on the radio, because you can actually do damage to like the local businesses if you transmit too loudly or this kind of stuff if your equipment isn't set up properly. So they're giving you like a lot of kind of extra stuff that you can do, but you can also get in trouble, obviously. And I know some people, they talk on ham radio and they don't have licenses, and you can get into even more trouble even doing that. So don't think about doing that. The test is not that terribly hard to get, and you no longer have to know Morse code. Back in the day, you had to know Morse code when I first got my ham radio license forever ago. But those are the three kind of classes of radios that you see out there mostly. And I would recommend, I mean, if you're going to do this a lot, get the first two. The ham radio may not necessarily be necessary. Anyway, this is Famous Reading, and we will proceed on, and we will have like another video, obviously, after this of some more Famous Reading.